we understand that this room is full of nutrition practitioners, dietitians, folks within the public health. Maybe quickly we could just introduce ourselves so that we know each other. So for instance, my name is Dept. I'm a nutritionist, and if everyone can just introduce themselves, then we will accept the presenters and we will introduce them. Maybe starting from here, going up, so that we can quickly go yourself, where you're coming from, and just one or two things to say us now. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Tinaya ZimNA. I'm a family physician. I work in private practice. At the moment, I don't have anything to make this smile. Hello, everyone. My name is ZimNA. I'm a nutritionist from the Unicef.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Matthew. I'm the nutrition manager from Unicef. I was promised by my neighbors a nice tag, but I'm still waiting for it.
Yep. I can't see there's a sign.
Hello, I'm Yasham Sivini and I'm a dietitian in
Hi everyone, I'm Ruba Corey. I'm a nutritionist as well as a health coach as well. And I'm the founder of Fully Enriched. And I love cooking.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Chopera. I'm a public health nutritionist at the University of Zimbabwe.
I'm Matthew Furura, the chairperson of the Department for Nutrition and Science, senior lecturer in the department.
Hello, I'm Rebecca, lecturer at the Department of Nutrition.
Hello, I'm Charlotte, nutrition lecturer.
Hi everyone, I'm a nutritionist of the University.
Yeah, we understand nutrition is all about talking, right? So if you could speak up a little bit louder so that we could take note of it later.
I'm a nutritionist.
And Linda, food scientist.
Lecturer, Unicef. Good evening, Nyasham Shonga, senior nutritionist.
It's also allowed to say, for Simba.
We are Simba.
Okay, from we are Simba to Pastor. My name is Penaya Gomora. I'm a nutrition specialist.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Stephen. I'm a nutritionist at Unicef.
My name is Tanara Chua. I'm a computer science and software developer. I'm sure you're aware of the recently held first ever nutrition hackathon. I was part of the winners this summer.
My name is Natasha Madita, and I'm a computer science student.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna Chineka. I'm a nutrition officer.
Hello everyone, I'm Benjamin Australian nutritionist with Ministry of Health, currently studying for public health and promotion.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruben Danga. I'm a nutrition officer for Unicef.
She's not one of the presenters, because presenters are not introducing themselves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You're okay. Hello, my name is Tawanda Adam. I'm a nutritionist at UZ.
I'm Brian Belan. I'm a nutritionist at Kingston.
I am Carol Mahachi, the physiology lecturer in University of Zimbabwe.
Hi, I'm Miri Romvura. I'm a nutritionist. I work for World Food Program.
Hi, my name is Hilary Joa. I am furniture at the computer center.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Maro. I'm a biochemist student.
Anyone who hasn't introduced themselves? I know Jacob is here. I know you're doing IT, but you're also nutritionist.
Yes, I'm Jacob Sasa, I'm a nutrition student at NFNS.
My name is Osman Banda Tola. I'm a nutritionist, but independent producer, content.
Thank you very much. Are we still going to anticipate? Okay, maybe there's the next 1 minute, maybe we can move closer to each other so that we become one family. And those who are coming, they just sit at the edges. So can we just move maybe towards the center so that we can get closer to each other? Come on. Closer to the middle. Thank you very much, everyone, for introducing yourselves. I'm sure other folks will join us, but we also have an opportunity to have people introduce themselves, maybe in between the presentation. Without having a lot to talk, especially welcoming you and things like that. And I also realized that the chairperson for the Institute for Nutrition and Family Sciences will give us the vote of thanks, and procedurally someone from the university should have welcomed us. But either way, I'm a product of this university, so I'd like to welcome you all to the Institute of Food, Nutrition and Family Sciences, and also to the University of Zimbabwe, and also to this inaugural event that is being coordinated by ZimNA. And by show of raising hands, how many are part of ZimNA? Are ZimNA members? Official members, not WhatsApp members. By show of hands. The number is on the lower side. So we hope maybe by end of this event, we will be able to have many more people coming and registering to become ZimNA members. Our speaker today is from, our first speaker is from Unicef. She's a dietitian by training in South Africa. Then she had a long spell of working at the Baranyatiko group of hospitals as the dietitian. At some point, she was my supervisor and a supervisor of many people who are also here. Today, she works at Unicef. She's an officer who is responsible for adolescent health and nutrition. Her name is none other than Danda, and she's going to speak about the State of the World Children Report, which is the 2019, that has been released in a couple of weeks ago. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Dexter, for that introduction. Good evening. So, I think I'll just step right into it if my technology allows me to do so. Okay. So, I was very intrigued when I heard the links in this room. And given my topic of today's presentation, I think you are all well placed in this room. No one is lost. And I have a feeling that what we're going to discuss today, hopefully for those who are still studying, will change your trajectory, your mindset as to where we are supposed to. first time in 20 years, we are talking about nutrition. The last report was in 1998. Again, the focus was on malnutrition. But yeah, it's still nutrition, but with a different face. And the theme this year is food, children, food and nutrition, growing well in a changing world. So UNICEF publishes this report annually, and they've been publishing it since 1980. So the whole point of the State of the World is that it sort of digs into key issues that affect children, and to help us understand better and to advocate for solutions that are affecting children in terms of malnutrition. So this is the sad fact of the world globally, but this also applies to children in Zimbabwe. So if you are in the street and you count 1, 2, 3, one of those children is not growing well. Do you agree? Do you agree? Yes. Right. So one in 3 children are not growing well in Zimbabwe. And if we are looking at the face of malnutrition, the face of malnutrition has changed over the past few years. It's still the same, but new facets are actually coming in. So 20 years ago, if you look at the report, it focuses on undernutrition and micronutrient deficiencies. But 20 years later, the world over, and Zimbabwe is being challenged by what we are calling the triple burden of malnutrition, which is undernutrition, overnutrition, and micronutrient deficiencies, or what we know as hidden hunger, because the signs do not show until it's too late for us to do anything. Right. So these are the statistics in Zimbabwe. And so if you're looking at data, we are comparing Zimbabwe to the world. And it actually shows that food is not working well for children, because children are still suffering from malnutrition. Now, the drivers of malnutrition is that, remember, nutrition starts early, right? When the mother falls pregnant, that's when we start building the potential for the child, right? So in Zimbabwe, you find that although our exclusive breastfeeding rates are up, they are at 61% compared to 42%, which is global, right? So the first 6 months with most of our mothers, children are starting on the right note. The problem is arising when it comes to feeding complementary foods, right? So if you think about what mothers are giving at the age of 6 months, usually that's where the problems start. So you find that most mothers do not know what to give, right? They are challenged with this young baby with no teeth, right? And they are afraid to introduce certain foods in the child's diet. So you find that most children are not being fed food from the animal food. And I think you know the reason, right? Child has no teeth, they cannot chew meat. Child has no teeth, I cannot give beans. So we just end up giving the gruels or the soups that are coming from these foods. Right. And this is also in line with global trends. This is not good that we are changing with global, right? I'm just saying that the world over, this is also what is happening. Now, as the children grow older, they are exposed to highly processed foods. Foods which are high in fat, foods which are high in salt, foods which are high in sugar. Right. Just think of what we had as a snack today. Those who are here. And if you look at the marketing that companies are doing, it's very aggressive. You see adverts on TV, you see adverts, even when you walk into a shop, right? The lower shelves near the tills are low enough for children to reach. And children, for those who have children, I'm sure your kids are begging you to buy those kind of foods to them. Is it your fault? I'm asking. So, the food environment itself, you find that the world has changed. We have changed the way we eat. We have changed the way, what we value, right, with food. How many yourselves. So you find that the way we eat has changed. Our mothers are busier, so convenience has become the order of the day. So anything that can get you to eat in the shortest time possible is usually what is preferred. So children are living in an environment where there is too much unhealthy food options and too little healthy food options. And if you ask anyone, why can you eat fruits every day, they'll tell you they're expensive, right? I can only buy a few bananas, but with the same money I can buy a whole packet of ZimNA. And that will last me more than a month for my child. Is that not it? Right, so this is what is happening in the world. Now, you find that climate change, droughts, and natural disasters are also affecting how communities, especially in the rural areas, are accessing food. So they make most of the time when it's not raining, right, food is scarce. So you find poor quality diets are also affecting our rural communities. So this is the environment that children are growing in. So what can we do to respond to this? So there is a call for action. We need to empower families, children and young people to demand more nutritious food. So this is important because the consumer we have easy access to. Before we can even try to change what industry is producing, we need a consumer population which is aware of what is healthy and how they can actually demand for those foods. You heard I used to work at Kali. One of the conversations I always used to have with my diabetics when we try to encourage them to eat whole wheat bread was that it's not available at my tuck shop or it's not available at my shops. Consumers are not even aware that they can actually demand for those types of foods to be available in localities near them. So this is very important. Now our nutrition education also needs to be innovative to capture the young audience that is growing up. You cannot keep doling out pamphlets. How many of you read the pamphlet? Maybe because you're students, you have to. But those who receive pamphlets, how many of you actually have time to read pamphlets? So we need to be very innovative in how we approach young children. Okay. Then we also need to drive food suppliers to do the right thing. When you need, just go and check what is the marketing budget for any large corporate company, right? Choose Coca-Cola, for example. Imagine what their marketing budget for food advertisement is, right? But what type of food are they pushing to children? So we actually need to change our suppliers' mindset by demanding. If we create the demand, it means the suppliers are forced to produce healthier food. So there is need to provide economic incentives to those who are doing right for children, and disincentives to those who do not. There's also needs to invest in modern storage, packaging, processing, and other infrastructure to reduce waste and contamination. Because food wastage has also come on the map as a big problematic. And we need to build more resilient food supplies so that if a drought hits or if a cyclone hits, our communities are cushioned to actually deal with those shocks. Then we need to build healthy food environments for all children. The food environment is where children and their caretakers interact with food systems. So this is where children are influenced to eat. Like I said, just go through any supermarket. How many kids have you seen throwing a tantrum about wanting a packet of chips or things like that? We also need to take actions against aggressive marketing. Like if you walk around your campus how many billboards are there that are advertising food which is not necessarily nutritious for children. So this is also very important for us to do. Then we need to enforce standards on food labeling. How many of us have seen a food label? How many of us can interpret what is on the food label? How many of us even know what it means when they write all that stuff? What does it mean to your body? So we need consumer-friendly food labeling that consumers, they pick when they make a choice. But they can only make a choice if they know what it is that they're supposed to be eating. And there's also need to ensure that school meals are nutritious. And we are not pushing unhealthy food products in the school environment. Now, we also need to mobilize supportive systems to scale up nutrition results for all children. If you work in the nutrition field, you know that nutrition is not the job of nutritionists alone. Right? You deal with nutrition, but you are not responsible for the food supply. So we need all systems. If safety is not there in terms of water and sanitation, is food safe? Even if it's healthy, it's not. Education. We need to be educating people about what is healthy and what is not. And our health needs to be the filter which catches some of these issues early so that parents or caregivers respond to needs and respond to needs adequately. And lastly, we need to be collecting and we need to collect, analyze, and use quality data and evidence regularly to guide our action and track our progress. Now, the problem we have recently moved to school-age children in adolescence. But the problem is that there is no data which is available for this age group. And we are sort of going in blind because we do not know the factors that are affecting nutrition behaviors in these children. So there is need for us to make concerted efforts to actually collect data which affects the different populations that we are responding to. Okay. Other than that, I think that brings me to the end of this.
Thank you very much, Rubimbo. Can we give another round of applause? Okay, so thank you very much to Rubimbo for bringing in a lot of dimensions that are very, very important and trying to put the perspective in terms of the state of the world report, mainly for children. And I think Unicef has been talking about a lot of things. I remember when she said food is not working well for children. Why? Because we still have a lot of malnutrition. I think that brings a lot of discussions or thoughts to them saying, is it, why are we malnourished? Why do you think our children are malnourished? This is not a lecture, it's a discussion. why do you think our children are malnourished? Yes, anyone? What do you think? Besides, I know the Wayboy has brought a lot of things into context. Anybody have minds? Okay, Sparker. Okay, let's give it to the girl who just want the hackathon. Why do you think our children are malnourished?
Different contributing factors, lifestyle, as well as what they educate and what they know. Do they know what to eat, how to eat?
Definitely, I agree with you. And I'm sure recently we're talking about new terminology for nutrition, right? Other people are talking about issues to do with the food environment, the food desert, the food swamp. But I'm not sure. They say a food swamp is an area or a neighborhood where there are more unhealthy foods and fast foods. And I hear today there's going to be cocktail. Which one we're not in? Which one? I'm not sure because I'm not sure of the name. Maybe there are some colleagues who have just joined us. Quickly, in the next 30 seconds or so, if you could just introduce yourselves. Who are you, where are you coming from, and one or two things to make us smile. Quickly, if you know you just joined us, or you didn't tell us your name.
My name is Webster Makombe. I'm a first year law student. I'm also the Scaling Up Nutrition certificate representing.
I'm a food science student. Food science student with the Department of Food and Nutrition Sciences here in the University of Scotland.
It's okay, let's just try to make it quick.
Tanya Zonanda, food science student here in physics. Sandroba Fati, food science here at University.
I'm Polina Kuno, I'm a nutrition and science student at UCF.
George Penny, chemistry department, UCF.
My name is Maris Kalakato, lecturer at Colorado College.
My name is Richard CBA, staff, media science. I'm Nico Fito, staff, IT.
Mr. Bobeo, technician.
Samantha Bagre, food science student.
National Superior Student. First of all, food science student. Major observer, food science student.
Christina Tanzania, nutrition student, currently attached as Hello, I'm Chen, nutrition science student at UCH, also attached at
Okay, anyone else? Okay, and whilst we're still at that, can we just try to move closer to each other so that we create space at the end? So that anyone who's joining us, they just sit at the end without distracting a lot.
Forward.
So I think today is very special in the sense that we now have got people who are coming from the industry, folks from Unicef, the ministry, and I hear Velani from K, right? For World Vision. K. So I think it's a good thing, and it's one of the first efforts that we're doing by trying to come up together under the banner of ZimNA, which is the Zimbabwe Nutritionist Association. And if you're not yet a member, please see one of the executive members around. So I'm not sure who is part of executive now. Okay, if you're not a member, please see me after this presentation so that we can have I can refer you to the right people. So our next presentation is going to come from Miss Tawonga Mderezo. So Tawonga is a nutritionist. She went through an attachment at Harare Hospital. It was a year long, not under Rumibodanda, but under Lona. And also she's now working here at the UZ. She's a teaching assistant, and she's also an MPhil student. And currently I'm sure she's also assisting Dr. Matsongo in terms of conducting the landscape analysis for adolescents in Zimbabwe. And today she's going to speak about nutritional status of school-aged children and adolescents in Zimbabwe, which is specifically a review. Over to you, Tawonga. Please, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Dept, also for making the CV appear bigger than it is. All right, so I'm going to be talking to you about the nutritional status, nutrition knowledge, and dietary patterns of the school-aged children in Zimbabwe. So it's a review of the current literature, which is very limited, but it can give us a picture of what's going on in Zimbabwe in terms of school-age children who are in ECD up to high school. So I think Rebecca also mentioned the background in terms of the worldview of the nutritional status of children. But there is a triple burden of malnutrition among our school-age children. And some of the statistics include 20% stunting, high prevalence of underweight and thinness, and less than 15% being overweight or obese. And the eating patterns of children are also still being investigated, but they're indicating bad practices in terms of diet. So in terms of the objective, it was to carry out a desk review to understand the nutritional status, nutrition knowledge, and dietary practices of children, of school-age growing children. All right, so in terms of the statistics, there's really worrying statistics in terms of overweight for school-age children. So there's been seen to be around 8 to 10% of overweight and obesity among these children. You'll notice there are a number of statistics there. I won't go through all of them, but then I'll gladly share this presentation with you to just give you an idea of what's going on. So these statistics are only for Zimbabwe. So to give you a picture of what's going on in Zimbabwe. Then for children between the ages of 15 to 19, there's been reported in the urban areas a high prevalence of obesity and overweight, which is about 25.2%. The ones highlighted in red can also show you the worrying, the traffic lights, the danger traffic lights for these statistics. So under thinness, there's also, though decreasing for especially 15 to 19-year-old children, there's still worrying statistics among those in primary school as seen by a study done by Mushonga. In terms of stunting also, there's been a decrease in stunting for children, but the prevalence is still quite high for children in primary schools especially, and also those between the ages of 13 to 19 years old. So the trends in BMI for the children between 15 to 19 years old indicate that there is an increase in overweight. If you can see under the overweight statistics, there's been an increase from 2005 to 2015 according to the Demographic Health Survey. So there's been an increase in overweight for, especially among non-pregnant girls. And for BMI for age, also for boys, there's been increase, slight increase, but it's there for boys in terms of overweight. Then what has been seen as some of the determinants of nutritional status for children is that those who are stunted are more likely to be wasted according to a study done. Then also those with inadequate dietary diversity are more likely to be overweight. Learners also who are involved in non-active forms of transport, that is, when you guys, I'm sure the parents that are around, when you take your child to school using a car or when you allow them to use public transport and they only have to travel a short distance to walk a short distance to school, that is the non-active forms of transport I'm referring to. So these ones have been indicated in increasing the prevalence of overweight among the school-age population. Then for micronutrient status, as mentioned before by Rebo, there's a triple burden. So some of the micronutrients, for non-pregnant girls, there's been an increase in anemia among adolescent girls. And this is high in urban areas, as well as those who are unemployed adolescent girls. And also this anemia is not silent among boys, but also exists in high percentages among our adolescent boys. Then the prevalence for anemia in both boys and girls, according to another study, showed that there's been a decrease in prevalence. Though still high, but it's decreasing. Then also country trends for those on iron folate supplementation among adolescent girls shows that in 2005, 9.4 did not receive any of these micronutrient supplements, and those who consumed them for longer than 90 days are 51.5%. So where is the other 49%? Also, according to the Zimbabwe Demographic Health Survey, 1 in 4 women are vitamin A deficient. So this is another micronutrient, and this is a worrying statistic as well. And for a study done on selenium as well, there was seen to be a deficiency for selenium among primary school children, or 48% who were said to be deficient in selenium despite their HIV status. Then we'll move on to nutrition knowledge of children. So as mentioned also earlier, that there's need to educate these children on nutrition and nutritional outcomes. So though there's been seen in most studies that there is a high prevalence of nutrition knowledge, they still need to sensitize these children about, despite them knowing that there's carbohydrates and they're good for energy, there's protein, it's good for this and that. It's also important to make sure that they know what exactly to eat, how to eat those things, the quantities, the proportions, not just the general nutrition they learn in science or any other subjects they're doing. So for adolescent nutrition also, for knowledge also, there's been a low level of knowledge for adolescent girls. So these are between 10 and 19. And this is in terms of hand washing, in terms of health, and then in terms of health and nutrition information, most of these girls reported that they received their knowledge through school. Some mentioned through clinics, and some mentioned through health workers. So these are the other avenues maybe that can be explored to deliver these messages to this age group. As I mentioned, gaps still exist on the knowledge in obesity predisposing factors, diet preferences, and obesity-related complications. Then in terms of dietary diversity, these children mainly consume carbohydrates, also mainly due to the economic factors that are currently prevailing in this country. It was noticed that 97.7% will eat grains, and this was for children in grade 5 to 7. And also for the adolescents, there was also a high consumption of carbohydrates. So in terms of proteins and vegetables, there's still a worrying percentage of children who are not consuming as much vegetables as we'd like them to have. Then, in terms of dietary diversity as well, 11.2% are consuming an adequate diet in terms of 5 food groups and higher, and most of them have poor dietary diversity. And one study showed that despite having cheaper traditional foods, especially in terms of local context, might be in the district or province, people are moving away from the traditional types of food, and they might be cheaper in that certain region, but most people are not including traditional foods in schools as school meals or also as just consumption at home. People are moving away from the traditional food, which might be cheaper in that area. And also, in terms of the food environment, 26.6% of the children reported to frequent the school tuck shops to consume unhealthy food items. So this includes chips, biscuits, bubble gums, all the things that are sold at the, I don't know if anyone has seen the tuck shop selling fruits or milk or anyway, anyone? All right, so I think that needs to be revised to make sure that our kids have access to the healthier options. And also, for a study for dental caries, it was noticed that children are consuming high sugar foods such as sweet chocolate, sodas in urban areas, more in urban areas than in rural areas. in terms of dietary behaviors. So I think teachers are also an integral part of the school environment and teaching our children. So someone did a study on how teachers are doing the nutrition education or are monitoring nutrition among the children. So some reported to be discussing balanced diet with the children. Some reported to check the content of the children's lunch boxes, and also some reported to be engaging parents in meetings to talk about nutrition. So this is part of also the FAO nutrition education in primary schools, which encourages an integration of these things into the nutrition education of children to ensure that they have adequate outcomes in terms of their nutritional status. Then when these children were asked what they would want to change about their current behaviors, 45.4% reported that they would want to eat more fruits and vegetables. So despite our snapshots having no fruits and vegetables, maybe, according to this population, they would want more fruits and vegetables around their schools. And some were just not willing to change. So also in terms of the school environment, most schools, primary schools actually are providing meals for children. But you notice most of them are giving them mainly carbohydrates, and the protein and vegetable part is not always, is a bit low. The consumption is low. So the school environment in terms of nutrition school feeding program will need a push in terms of financial assistance in order to make sure that children have at least access to one good meal at schools. So some of the challenges faced with the shortages of food and the high cost of food. Then the school environment also has a potential for nutrition gardens, and some have reported nutrition gardens being established in schools. So I think it might have been one handful of the statistics, but that's what's available in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Tabonga. And I'm sure you saw her looking at the laptop. She is blind, by the way. She just forgot her spectacles. Okay, I'm just being told as well that for those who would want to be part of the ZimNA community, you can see Pauline. She's the lady, the beautiful lady sitting there with her hand up. Please just go to her. Even if you're interested, just go leave your number and your name. She'll definitely call you back about ZimNA, of course. So for those who have got questions, may you just park them a little bit so that we can discuss these questions during the panel discussion. But I'm sure things are actually coming in into context. Remember, we talked about the global context. Then Tawonga is now trying to, she also tried very much with a lot of statistics though, to bring it down to our level. So the next speaker, she will speak about the holistic approach to nutrition on school-aged children and adolescents. A little bit about Rumbizani. So Rumbizani, she's a practicing registered nutritionist from MSU, and she has a certificate in programs from the UK which focused on nutrition, diet and weight and loss management. She's also a founder of health and wellness consulting company which specializes on weight loss and healthy eating using locally available foods and bio-individual holistic approach. She is featured on the American Weight Loss Summit, and she's an author of 2 books, I'm not sure of the titles. Then also she's a radio and TV show presenter. She's a top entrepreneur in Zimbabwe, and also for the United Nations in 2016. She has over 100, she has coached over 100 clients on successful weight loss and disease management using food or various diets. She works with medical doctors, pharmacists, gyms to reduce obesity and NCDs. And I'm sure today she will speak a lot to do with issues to do with that holistic approach that she termed the bio-individual, or trying to remove nutrition from a broader perspective and trying to individualize it. A lot of people always say that nutritionists always talk things in general. They want us to sound like pharmacists who talks about prescribing a diet, prescribing a drug, whilst we move from a diet recommendation to diet prescription. So let's listen to Rumbi and let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Dexter, for Thank you very much, Dexter. It's amazing to be here. I love speaking, and it's an honor to be able to share with you what I have actually discovered in my journey with the clients that I work with. So I'm going to use more of a holistic approach to nutrition on school age and adolescents. I'm using a practical angle where you can be able to actually use even with customers or clients who come to you wanting to ask for assistance with this regard. So our traditional approach to nutrition is that we understand that our culture plays a very big role. I'm sure if I'm to ask you how many of you eat salsa every night, and I'm certain that if you don't eat salsa that day, something is wrong. Can I see by showing hands? Okay, that's the majority of us, because that's our culture. That is our tradition. It's what connects us with our Zimbabwean and what makes us feel like I am Zimbabwean, the fact that we eat our salsa and the like. So nutrition basically is an actual process of using the right foods. But one aspect that we need to really bring out is that there is, one, the knowledge of the foods, and two, the feelings associated with them. Now, feelings is something that we tend to not focus as much on, especially as nutritionists, because we think we're not psychologists. We think we're just there to give a prescription. Prescriptions, they do not work. I found that especially with the clients, you need to have an understanding of the feelings. Because what happens is the knowledge is formed by the parents, the friends, social media, and peers. These feelings are based on the story that they have come to believe about what exactly is nutrition. Our observations that they've made, especially as little children, they observe and they watch. What do you buy for them? How do you respond to certain foods? What is your language? When you go to the supermarket, do you say, leave the fruits, they're expensive. You can get a sweetened one. And then we're saying that we want to reduce the obesity. But what story, what observations do these kids have? What is the meaning of nutrition? And what feelings of security do they have? Especially for our adolescents, there's a very high increment, especially in relation to anorexia as well as bulimia, because most teens, they want to fit into a specific way or a specific body type. So exactly how can we be able to ensure that our adolescents feel secure? What happens is, from a psychological perspective, is we have the neurons. As you can see, there are some neurons. And once you associate knowledge with a strong feeling, there's a bond which is formed. So the more you repeat that feeling, the stronger the bond there is. So it's very difficult for you to now come to a 30-year-old and tell you, stop taking sugar, when that bond is associated with something that makes them feel happy as well as good. And two, it's knowledge that maybe their parents or their friends or peers or even the general marketing has actually established as being healthy for them. So the knowledge that we're going to look at in relation to how do the foods contribute to obesity. One, children are picky eaters. That's what we have come to tell ourselves. They don't eat vegetables. Fruits are expensive, water has no taste. I'm looking around, I don't see any water bottles. Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, we've got maybe about 4, 5. But we are nutritionists. We're meant to be living the life. We say water has got no taste. So we prefer to have juices or freezers to quench our thirst. And tea, it must have a lot of sugar if you want to drink it. So these are all knowledge that we have been able to actually have in relation to obesity. So we know that number one, sugar is actually a key contributing factor to weight gain, the freezers and the sugar in tea. Number two, the water is essential. There is no two ways about it if you want metabolism and satiety to be taken. But very little of is actually taken off water. And fruits and vegetables are essential for digestion and absorption of nutrients. But if we tell our kids that they're expensive, how do we expect them to have a normal weight in the end of the day? So, these are some of the perceived childhoods, the beliefs that our children grow up having. A child will base a story, a happy moment with fast food. Most of us, I know, even myself, maybe on my birthday, my parents will take you to Chicken Inn or another fast food outlet to celebrate your birthday. If you do well at school, it's the same thing. But what exactly is it our fast food? There's nothing. Because once our foods are deep fried, all of the nutrients are lost. So at the end of the day, whatever your body cannot digest is going to store its fat. So imagine how many times you take your children out for chicken and chips, and you say we're doing them a love treat, when we're actually slowly destroying our young and tender children. The observation, when our parents give us money, they tell us it's money for sweets, go and buy sweets. Your grandparents will come, give the child money for sweets. It is now becoming a connection of, okay, my parents love me. Because they love me, they're giving me money for sweets. So sweets are a good thing. Or are they? When these emotions are then strengthened with the knowledge, they create what are known as happy feelings. Sugar, it makes one feel happy. So you always want to be in that state of feeling happy. So that's why you'll actually realize that children will always cry for the sweet treats. Because it's very highly addictive, one, and they want to always have that feeling of happiness. And three, it makes them feel loved and it makes them feel secure. So it's very difficult for us to then break the cycle. In adolescence, we have a desire for acceptance, especially in the society that we have, from friends and schoolmates, where you will hear the schoolmates telling you that if your boyfriend doesn't get you chocolates on Valentine's Day, he doesn't love you. What is now chocolate? The number one ingredient is actually sugar. So how exactly are we now telling our teenagers that this chocolate, this sugar, is associated with love? It strengthens that bond once again. The Coca-Cola industry does a great job at marketing. Look at all of the adverts. They'll be happy, they'll be having fun, they'll be smiling, they'll be their friends. And that is why we actually see that you've got a higher percentage consumption from adolescents, especially in relation to the fizzy drinks industry. Then the memory that the child has had over the time. They grow up believing that sugar is a treat, that junk food is a treat. So even when their boyfriend asks them, where do you want to go? The first place they'll say is, Chicken Inn. Because this to them, it associates them with being loved and also being happy. So what exactly is the approach that we as nutritionists must take if we want to reduce weight loss? The American Psychological Association 2019 says, the great thing is, one, focusing on preventing weight gain and not putting so much emphasis on weight loss. What that basically means is that number one, you need to have an appreciation of what exactly is the knowledge that our children have in relation to prevention of obesity. Not just the children, but also us as parents, also the people who they stay with, and the people around them. Because this will determine how the right food choices are going to be made. Number two, let us establish positive emotions or feelings of happiness with the right foods. And number three, the acceptance of body image, feelings of shame and comments from parents or close friends or loved ones. You are so fat. Eat less food. You embarrass us with your weight. All of these things, they make it a very difficult process for the child to actually then lose weight, even if they are to try going on a weight loss spree. And two, it increases their risk of binging as well as cycles between two different diets. Obesity prevention. How can we be able to prevent obesity in relation to the right knowledge for our children? The vegetables. mash them. You mash your vegetables and you blend them into your soups, or you encourage them to eat the vegetables first before they actually have the meat. Or you can cut them into bite-sized pieces, smaller pieces of vegetables. The fruits, buy a banana instead of a lollipop. The prices are exactly the same. Encourage your child, even as you walk around with them, that no, let us buy a banana. It's sweet. A sweet is also sweet, but you know that this is not as addictive in relation to contributing to weight gain as compared to a sweet. Water. I encourage my clients to drink water before the meal, especially the children. This will help to instill a behavior as well as an association that if I drink my water, I can then be able to have my food. Number one, it will help with satiety. Number two, it will ensure that they do drink water because it's the only place you can monitor them. At school, it's very difficult that for breakfast and supper, it's easier to monitor. You can place water in the deep freezer and pack for the school child if they want something cold. And for adolescents, they like something with a bit of a taste, so put some fruits inside. And you can have honey in your tea, or you can add cinnamon. Cinnamon is very good, especially for the diabetics. So this is a simpler way for you to be able to ensure that you're reducing the sugar that they take a day. Then emotions. How can we establish positive emotions for weight loss? For the story, create a new story. Let them learn to celebrate, either with a family bride or a bring and share, instead of the deep fried chicken and chips. Or, if you can't do that, opt for the rotisserie or the grilled chicken, instead of telling them that we're going for a deep fried or a junk food route. Observation and memory. Let the money be for fruit treats and given for food and given for good behavior instead of sweet treats. Don't use sweets as a way of silencing the child. Use something else. For adolescents, let us opt for water before meals. This will help to instill the habit and they're less likely to drink a lot of fizzy drinks when they're going out. And in relation to the expression of chocolates or love, you can always encourage them to have other ways of expressing love, maybe with roses or with flowers and stuff like that. Okay, so these are just insights and ideas. We're all very different, and I'm sure you can always pick something that you can be able to instill to different people or even to yourself as well. So we then have acceptance of body image. Parents, refuse to allow the people to comment about the body of your children. You need to stand up for your child and tell them they are not fat. Because what happens, especially if the child has got a negative perception that I'm fat, I'm not going to lose weight, it becomes very difficult for them to actually be able to lose the weight over the years. And number two, feelings of shame, they end up contributing to them not wanting to actually embark on anything to have a healthier way of eating. Focus on their strengths and not on their weaknesses. Tell them to do things like maybe art or soccer instead of taking them to ballet classes because the slim girls are there. So in that way, you're actually not causing them to think I have to fit into a way. They are acceptable just the way that they are. And help them to make salads for special dinner tonight instead of saying, you need to go on a diet to lose weight. Encourage them to learn how to be able to actually use vegetables to attain healthier eating. And lastly, avoid comparison of children. Accept them as they are. This is very important because especially as we grow, we all desire to have that desire to be accepted and wanted, as this will lead to binging in the later years. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ruby. Maybe before you go, you can just take us to that slide. What I was making on. I'm sure we need to see those with water. Can you raise your hand if you have got a bottle of water? But I think these are the things that our community always says, and did you then realize that when I looked at this this slide, and when she was talking about sometimes we program our children so that they start to love sweet things, sugary stuff, and things like that. And I started thinking, neurophysiology. What, really too much. And I brought this. The might is a neurophysiology, isn't it? So thank you very much, Romy. Let's give another round of applause. And I'm sure she brought up a lot of issues that sometimes within our programming, or when we start to think about promotion of healthy diets, we don't think about it. But how is it easy for mothers? I know Dr. Chopera is here. But how is it easy for mothers to put fruit, sugar, lunchbox in one? How is it easy? We'll not talk about lunch, but how is it easy? Okay, for those who have got children, what's easy to put in the lunchbox? Yes. Sorry?
Why? Because of what has been talked about earlier on, the comparative, what Ruby was talking about. My can't take fruits because all my friends bring chips.
Okay.
So I think until we have an opportunity to influence maybe the curriculum, the thinking within the teachers and everything else, it's still a bit.
So the moment you start to put fruits in these lunchbox, you start saying, but my mom will not see. Yes.
I think it's something that has to be instilled and learned. I remember this funny incident with my daughter sitting right next to me. We didn't have fruits that day, so I just picked a carrot and I said, "Can you take a carrot today?" Apart from a sandwich and everything. Carrot, my goodness. She said, "No, I'm not going to be seeing eating a carrot." So it really needs to instill that, because I have to make it you are going to be the one, because you are eating the most nutritious food. It's not a fruit, but you've got a vegetable, so you are better than everything else.
That's interesting. And you then find out that data from the food consumption survey, which is not yet out officially, it starts to talk about issues to do with avocado being one of the most consumed fruits. I know Tamonga has talked about some of these indicators that are actually coming in. And we're not sure if our young children prefer to eat these fruits. But then when you start to think about the state of the world in terms of adolescents and children, what about those mothers now who are adolescents, who are still in the adolescent phase, but they are already pregnant, some of them have got children? Where do they fit? Are they moms? Are they adolescents? Identity crisis. Okay, and also when you then look at the current ZimVac or the 2019 ZimVac data, it talks about, if you're talking about the determinants of malnutrition, it talks about female-headed children. Children who come from female-headed households, they are more likely to be stunted, wasted, and underweight at the same time. So that means issues to do with what? Gender is an issue, right? And have we ever thought about that? As nutritionists, we always talk about gender from a male involvement, male engagement perspective, but to what extent do those issues go? So, fortunately, this evening we've got Dr. Sandra Batasara. A bit about Sandra. She's an experienced sociologist and a researcher. She's a gender expert and also a gender activist. She holds a PhD in sociology from Rhodes, 2 masters, one in public policy and human development from Netherlands, then also another master's in sociology and social anthropology from University of Zimbabwe. She's currently teaching gender studies and other livelihoods-related courses such as climate change and society and sociology of the environment in the sociology department at the UZ. Sandra researches and writes on climate change, livelihoods, and agrarian aspects and women's issues. Among others, she has conducted research and published on climate change and livelihoods, adaptation in smallholder farming systems, agrarian aspects, and child marriages in Zimbabwe. Sandra has also recently co-authored a book on the political economy of livelihoods in contemporary Zimbabwe, published by Routledge. And the good thing about it is her presentation is coming at the right time, where we talk about issues to do with economy-wise, we're not doing well. Political-wise, I'm not going to talk about that. So let's welcome Sandra so that she gives us that anthropology perspective. And whilst she's coming, if you've got any questions, please jot them down. Immediately after the last presenter, we'll get in a session where we'll talk about some of these questions and the discussion. Over to you, Sandra.
Section 15 on food security. It talks about
underlying, the notion of within the limits of available resources and the implications of that statement in terms of realizing the rights of children to food and nutrition security. So what is the problem then? We don't really see a clear, systematic approach in terms of, the right to food and nutrition security being enforced in our context. Yes, we have the Constitution. Yes, the country is a signatory to, children's rights and also broader women's rights. But when it comes to how children's rights to food and nutrition, play out in different contexts in the country, do we have the data? Do we know what is happening? Is there enforcement? And we also have different studies. I think it was Taonga, we presented on a review of different studies on nutrition and so forth. But do we really see issues to do with rights? Because we know, being adults and being children, yes, we might be in the same context, but the children also live in their own world of children in reality as well. Therefore, we need to be able to understand also these issues against, the background of human rights issues. In terms of objectives, this study was part of a research program by the Women's University on child-sensitive social policies research grants, which was funded by Unicef. And these are the major objectives in terms of how we conducted this study. We were trying to understand, the extent to which children's right to meals and nourishment is being upheld in this particular community of Oakley, and also to analyze, issues around dietary patterns of children, also from a human rights, perspective. But also important was the issue of interventions that are available in terms of how then these rights can be realized, or even, what are some of the institutional factors and barriers that are preventing the realization of children's rights to food and nutrition security. This is more of, the conceptual framework in terms of, understanding the international component of economic and social and cultural rights, which speaks so much to issues of the realization of the right to adequate food and what states, should do at a national level in terms of, adopting measures that are able to shield vulnerable populations, for instance, in low-income urban settlements, using different ways. For instance, by identifying, threats to adequate food, which we can do through research and other means, but also to assess the impact of different legislative measures, to also improve coordination, when it comes to institutions, be they state or non-state actors. But at the same time, issues of, accountability and clear allocation of responsibilities when it comes to realization of such rights. At the same time, I think, the last one is also very important in terms of adequate participation. To what extent, for instance, are children taken into consideration when we are making these different policies. In terms of methodology, we used the Q-squared approach. We conducted interviews, with guardians and parents. We admitted prisoners, to children, and collected data on various aspects. For instance, the number of meals, quantities eaten, sources of food, and the like. The study participants, like I said, we targeted, women, men, and children. But the whole idea in terms of operationalizing the women's rights, approach in this research was to bring out the voices of children in terms of whether they understand the issues of rights and how they interpret issues of rights when it comes to food and security. But also to understand this in terms of their voices, to what extent are their rights being respected children also encounter a different world that is mediated by adults. That is in terms of age, in terms of culture, in terms of power and tradition when it comes to issues of food and nutrition. And, the children that we also talked to, generally also, exhibited some kind of awareness when it comes to issues of rights, although they cannot clearly explicate in terms of the specific rights as they are spelled out in the documents. But we also realized that one thing that is very fundamental, is these children understand these rights, but it's a different aspect when we're talking about whether these rights are then being respected when it comes to various facets of food and nutrition. Like I said, regarding several issues, for instance, expected meals, decision making regarding the type of food to be consumed, and am I having say chicken or genkati, and even the right to refuse food that has been prepared in the household. So we also argued in this study, that from the analysis, the rights of children are not being held, upheld consistently, within the population that we dealt with. And this is evident. For instance, most children miss the expected meals required per day. The majority of the children say they eat 3 times a day, but they miss also expected meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In this case, you find children, they can miss breakfast, go to school empty, on an empty tummy, have lunch, a snack or something, come back home, maybe have something in between, but in some instances, just wait to have dinner. In terms of some of the statistical issues, you realize that 80% of the children say they are not consulted on food and nutrition decisions. 60% they say they have no right to decline food that has been prepared. 146, say they have the right to request for more food, but it's not always the case that they get it. And 1% say that they invite to nutritious food, but as we'll discuss later, we'll see then the various factors that mediate these issues in terms of. So I try to bring out some of the narratives in terms of the data collection that we did on the right to adequate food and nutrition. We had a focused discussion with women in 1-5, for instance. We talked about, consulting children is not an everyday practice, but they may just talk in general in case one day things get better, and we provide for them. Like, oh, mama, that one was food chicken, right? Maybe things will change someday and we'll get it. And then, one mother there saying the child has the right to refuse prepared food, but with consequences. But she has no right to determine what should be consumed. We also talked to, fathers. I remember 2 of the fathers were widowed fathers that are living with children, and the father there said that children are not consulted. They have no right to make decisions or influence food preparation. Plus, it's not really their right because they don't buy the food. It was never like that us growing up. But when food, was available, would be rewarded. For instance, I can give an example, with my father. Every time the animals, want a match, we had chicken. Yeah, so that kind of thing. That's maybe one day if you work hard or there's a good event in the family, you can be given chicken. That kind of thing. So maybe if it's a better day, they will be rewarded with what they demanded. But it's not really construed in terms of it being a right. Then we have, a 15-year-old who was, living with a widowed father, who said children may be given choice, but their choice may not be accepted. Besides, it's an adult responsibility to decide on food, what to eat or on the diet. I also have the right to refuse to eat certain food items, but with consequences. I think we also saw that, the mother was saying, there are consequences if you do that. We could even hear some mother saying, I will stop only feeding, what is available if the children get sick. As long as they don't get sick, that is what is available. Children and dietary diversity.
In terms of protein, like I said, it's not rotisserie chicken. It's remkati, chicken offals. And these are also very specific which part of the chicken, when you talk about offals. It's the chicken offals matum in the head. Chicken feet, they're a luxury. Yes, they're actually a luxury. So you realize that the people that we're dealing with is mostly, the head and the matum, right? When you then go into the feet, it means uriwere. It means you're well off. Yeah, so the chicken offals are purchased from local shops, in packed in reusable 500 grams ice cream containers, and then sold to the household. A continuation on children and diversity, like I said, most of the foodstuffs are, bought from the local shops along the kind of main street where there is a lot of, activity in Zone 5. And from the observations, on the vending signs, you realize that most of the foodstuffs are packed in very small packs, which they term sauna. If we translate that, sauna means disaster, right? Or an accident, so it's like, this is not very, very ideal, but, we would hope for a better day. But in the meantime, this is what we are dealing with, hoping that things will get better. And the sauna, in most cases, lasts for a day. Rarely do you find food bought in large quantities, so that it is readily available. We did this field in March, so this might also have influenced, the responses in terms of the main vegetable, for instance, where they said it's pumpkin leaves during the rain season mostly, but any other time, green leaves, but these may be consumed without oil. Just also to get on in terms of the narratives, there is no dietary diversity. It depends. When I participate in that is management schemes, I can buy rice and fruit. But like I said, the carbohydrate can just be consumed as it is. And another mother says the children complain so that they can have different food. But it means I become mean or rude. I provide what is there. So in that context then, we can clearly see that rights are then not readily upheld. There were questions, I think, in terms of what is causing this kind of situation. So one of the research question was also around understanding the vulnerability context in terms of what is happening during that particular time that we conducted the study. So in terms of ranking, issues related to orphanhood, recession, unemployment, related to financial constraints, you realize that one of the issues that was consistent was financial constraint linked to unemployment, where most men and women are not formally employed and depend on care, hustling. At the same time, at the time of the food, some of the men were doing these jobs like weeding in the fields and so forth, because it was during the agricultural season. Sand abstraction, you can actually see where they do the sand harvesting, crushing stones around the Boca area, loading trucks and doing middlemen in Boca, tobacco checkpoints. And these kind of livelihoods, activities, for them doesn't, they do not really generate a lot of income. But we also noticed a lot of men were, popular with sports betting. If you've been to Zone 5, you will find this number of, small shops, crowded with men doing sports betting. There's a source of livelihood. And these also do not really generate a lot of income in terms of them being able to provide the income that is sufficient for adequate food or for dietary diversity. A few women are involved in income, that is money saving schemes, but for them to this is not related to the decision making that is being taken when it comes to the availability of food, but in also issues of dietary diversity. Like I said, most of the livelihood activities are here, which generate a lot of income. And a very interesting dimension on food purchasing, where food is only bought for immediate consumption, is shaping, the vulnerability of these children and also affecting how issues of rights play out in different households and in the wider community. Another aspect that was also important in terms of emerging from the data was, cases of desertion, where, men were just living in families, either migrating to South Africa or other cities, or having extra marital residence where they would then go and live with another wife and just live, the family, the wife and the children with no support. But issues like I mentioned earlier on, orphanhood is also a very important aspect in terms of creating difficult life trajectories for children and impacting, their rights and choices are limited when they are under the care of relatives who are also struggling under increasingly difficult, socio-economic conditions. But we also realized, that there was also another aspect, that related within this particular community, related to the challenge of living with fathers only. We talked to some of the children who are living with their fathers, either, their mother has died or, they've separated. In this case, where we have, children living in this kind of situations, for them, in terms of their own narratives, it is very difficult to deal with fathers, as what providers and decision makers, in terms of food and nutrition security, which also confirms the significant role that women play when it comes to decision making. Then we went to issues of institutions regarding, issues to do with service provision, social protection, social safety, nets, and child-focused food and nutrition programs. The simply forgotten is from the councillor of that area who said, you don't really see much in terms of government presence, government institutions, and donors. Most of what we hear, are stories that just reflect nostalgia. We used to have so many NGOs, back then they were here, we're getting cooking oil, beans, and rice, but it seems like it's a very long time ago. Social capital and social networks, they've also, been a bit weak from, what we gathered around issues of money saving schemes as well, which also impacts on the realization of the rights. In conclusion, I think, children have rights, framed in terms of both human rights and their status as children. But from this study, we see that, there is some sort of precarity when it comes to, how these rights are upheld. What we see is mostly towards the violation of the rights or broad human rights violation occurring, although it is not intentional, it is not justified. It is because of the prevailing macroeconomic conditions, but it is not justified. And we also need to understand that children's livelihoods are shaped by other decisions regarding unemployment and so forth. But at the same time, these children also sensitive in their voices. I think it is also important to flag the issue of the absence of state actors and non-state actors in this particular community in terms of social protection and other aspects. I think my last point would be, if you are going to get to Vision 2030, with our very chicken on one side and Jomkati on the other hand, we need to talk about social inclusion that target children and also invoke a human rights approach. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Sandra. And I think she really brought another context which is different from what we usually use with nutritionists. Issues of rights, issues of social inclusion, and also the political system. I remember when we always talk about that conceptual framework, we always talk about the immediate causes and then the underlying causes. By the time we go to those basic causes, but you then find out that these are the real issues. When she then says access to nutritious food is a right, so what do you say about the government? Why is it nutritionists, they don't, when people are talking about child rights, why is it we don't have nutritionists who speak or who engage with advocates, with lawyers? It's a good thing. One of our young youth and nutrition advocate is a lawyer in the making. So I think these are some of the issues that I think we need lawyers to take up and go with such issues in Parliament. When we talk about child rights, let's not forget about what nutritious food is, because it's actually a child rights issue. I don't know, maybe a leaf or two from what you got from Sandra's presentation, or Sandra's talk. Just one or two issues. I know she then said children, they were saying that we're not consulted on what should be put in the lunch box. I know Tabby is the only one with that daughter in this room. I'm not sure if you consult your daughter on what to put in the lunch box. What do others think? Sorry? Oh, let's start with the daughter. Okay. Does your mom consult you? Or used to consult you when what you put in the lunch box?
No.
How did you feel about it?
I don't know. I guess maybe when I was young, I had been thinking about it. But I guess as you grow older, it becomes a norm. You eat what's put in the lunch box.
That's interesting. Okay, there was another hand in the middle of the path. Okay. Oh, different issue?
Yeah, my hand was up, but on a different issue. It concerns the last point that you raised about the conceptual framework for the basic causes. I remember on a popular nutritionist WhatsApp group, the ZimNA WhatsApp, I actually raised that issue. Yeah, I actually raised that issue of advocacy, lobbying, and someone said in Shona, "Sianane politics," meaning leave politics alone. So I think nutritionists have that fear of if we start talking, okay, some have that fear that if we start talking about rights and taking the government to task, we are now making with politics.
Okay.
So maybe we need a way of how to do that safely. I don't know.
I mean, it's interesting when people talk about politics and they want to talk about play it safe. But I mean, politics is politics. Some people say politics is dirty. Some people say it's propaganda. It's I'm sure this is an academic discussion, right? Some people say it's a Mugabeism that we're used to. But I think the issue that Dr. Chopera is trying to bring up is issues to do with politics and also leading our politicians. And at the moment, if we talk about child rights, at the moment, you remember the Drought Relief Committee? What is it distributing? Maize, isn't it? Is it only maize, right? But then when you talk about is their right, social protection, safety net, isn't it? Those are the issues that we talk about. So why is it as nutritionists we need to advocate to actually ensure that those issues are actually put what? Into context, isn't it? Any other issues? A leaf or two? A leaf or two? Yes.
Yeah, just to add on to what she said before, you find that the law is there to protect, and so I think there is need for an emergence of nutritionists who are going to have to make a lot of noises in order to advocate and protect what they stand for. So I think we have to do away with the culture of fear. We have to make the noises in order to protect what we believe.
Ahoy, my nutritionist.
Yes. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a few minutes.
Interesting.
Yes, I mean, let's be pragmatic. When it comes to low-income urban areas, in terms of beneficence to our society, there's a low perception of beneficence. They don't produce anything, they don't count in terms of population-wise, percentage-wise, in terms of politics and distribution of equity. It's more or less that they're considered a burden on urban areas. And there's this devolution where we are encouraging people to move away from these states and try to create industries elsewhere. So why would we try and support them in a place where we don't want them?
Interesting. Anze mashoko makukuti. And I remember Dr. Nyagura's course. The last year's, the final year's course. Unfortunately, she has left us. Okay. Yeah, but I think she used to talk about urban agriculture, and by then she used to teach it in stories. There were no notes. There was no handout. And we thought, but you then find out when you then qualify to become a nutritionist, those are real issues. And that's what she's talking about. Issues to do with our urban population. When they then try to produce what we used to term urban agriculture, and as nutritionists, we are always quiet, arguing on WhatsApp. I'm not talking about the ZimNA group, of course. On another hand, yes.
Add on to what she said, that it's a big mistake for us to ignore that population. Because guess what? Those are the people who are going to become the maids in our homes. Those are the people who are going to be cooking for us when we're not available, cooking the food for our kids. So from my experience, all the maids who come to me, they know, oh, there has to be a vegetable with every meal. They know that because I make a fuss about it. But you see, I'll make a fuss about it, but we'll just put a little bit because with them, it's just a small corner of vegetable. So if we ignore that population, that means that they're going to bring those habits into our homes. Remember, how of us are kind of traveling now, busy going around the country trying to advocate. So now there are caregivers who let them go. What are they doing? So I think it's a very important cachet group that we need to actually look into.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very true. The moment you leave your home and you're Anna, you work for Unicef, and you've got this banner that you say we care for children, but who is caring for your children whilst you are getting in the field, and things like that, isn't it? And I think it touches every nutritionist. Pastor, I'm not going to say amen. It's okay. Okay, Pastor, like amen, so everything is well. The last presentation, maybe by show of raising hands, how many have been taught by this guy called Tonde Matsungu? Okay, so all these people are the products of Dr. Matsungu. His nickname sometimes, though he doesn't know it, is Chirera Nerera. Because if you look at most people, most nutritionists, some of their startup jobs, it's usually a referral from Tonde on WhatsApp, and I'm sure he has done that to a lot of students, to a lot of nutritionists. So Dr. Matsungu is a brother figure to most of us. He's a nutritionist by training. He was trained at this institution. During his time when he was the TA, won in terms of distinction. And people used to say he was the last person who got the distinction. So we're not shocked. Was he protecting that title? And at some point he was a district nutritionist in Manicaland. I think it was Makoni. He then came back to the university. He was an assistant lecturer, a teaching assistant as well. He then moved to Chinhoyi University. He produced some short courses, I think, through the Africa Virtual Learning Unit, which were necessarily on nutrition. He then did his PhD, and he moved back to nutrition. And I think to this institution, and I think she's one of the vibrant young nutrition academia together with Dr. Chipera. They've been pushing that ZimNA, and he has a link between the academic and what we are practicing in practice. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Matsungu to give us the last presentation. Modi, I know we were your students. This is not a lecture.
Okay, so is it now evening or what time is it? Thank you, Dept, for the kind words and introduction. It's good to see a packed house and eager faces, familiar faces around. I think we would like to thank Unicef for the opportunity to host this academic evening. It's the inaugural nutrition academic evening, but we decided to focus on the neglected groups in our nutrition or life cycle, the school-age children and the adolescents. So this is what I'm going to be talking about, why this age group is. I think from the previous presentation, from presenter number 1 to the previous one before me, the one about we realize, I think, there is a lot of issues to do with child rights and also a lot of neglect in terms of nutrition, because it's a nutrition event. But it's not only neglect with respect to nutrition, there's also neglect when we talk about the health system as a whole. So there's a lot of potential that we can actually achieve when we start focusing on these age groups. So in terms of definition, we're just talking about adolescent, school age. In terms of the recent Lancet series, this is the classification of this age group that we're saying is neglected. So we're starting from 0 to probably 30 years. This is the normal, typical, theoretical definition of a youth. It goes up to that age, not the other youth. So the adolescent is one of those groups in that framework where we talk of early childhood. If you try and divide it into different sections, you'll find that there's early childhood, mid-childhood, then you get to younger adolescents, and we go to older adolescents and the young adults. So this is, in terms of definition, the recent Lancet series talks about this age. So in this presentation and the previous presentation, when we had them talk about adolescents, we're speaking about the age of 10 to 19 years. So why should we basically be talking or worrying about our adolescents? If you look at, we've heard about the 1,000 days, the first window of opportunity from conception to the second birthday of the child. We call that the first window of opportunity. Opportunity in terms of saying, if we come up with our nutrition interventions, they actually have a lot of impact. We have chances of actually changing the lives of children in that age. But if you look at the life cycle, when someone comes from that 0 age to when they actually become gogos and you have different life stages. And the second window of opportunity is actually the adolescence. But unfortunately, I think as you have heard from previous speakers, I think Taonga's review highlighted that there is limited data on actually the status of a lot of nutrition indicators and health indicators for this age group. But the limited data that is there shows us that there is a double burden of malnutrition. The double burden of malnutrition is referring to the presence or the coexistence of both undernutrition and overnutrition in the same community and sometimes in the same individual. So it probably makes sense for us to focus on this age group. So if you look at the policy framework, globally, we are in the SDG area, Sustainable Development Goals, where we're trying to achieve certain goals and targets by the year 2030. That's the Sustainable Development Goals. But we also realize when we bring it home, our our policy framework, when we speak to nutrition, the National Nutrition Strategy speaks of the focus or the need to focus on adolescents. But unfortunately, there isn't much going on the ground, probably due to some of the reasons that are listed there. Chief amongst them, that probably there is limited funding available to actually push some of the programming. I think Dept earlier on alluded to an ongoing landscape analysis I think carrying out to try and understand the situation in terms of what is going on with our programs in the different at different levels, at national, provincial, and up to district level, so that we can actually come up with a roadmap of how we can proceed if we want to actually focus on this neglected age group. So this age group is the second window of opportunity. There's a lot of things going on at this age group, and there's also a lot of influence coming on from outside the family or the family setting or the home setting, where we start having a lot of influence from peers, the media, and also now in this age of social media, people are all over and they're also being influenced. Globally, if we try and look at the representation, this is a 2013 map that shows the percentage of total population that is actually represented by this age group. So if we are not seeing the key clearly, as we are in the pink area, it probably means that we actually have a lot of people in this age group in our demographics. So it makes sense also to then try and focus on this age group. These are our future leaders, and it therefore means that if we focus on this age group, we actually have potential to achieve our nutrition objective. We always talk of the SDG goals and targets by 2030. If we just focus on a few age groups and neglect others like this age group, it's actually going to be difficult for us to achieve these goals by 2030. So it's important that we speak of not leaving everyone behind as we try and move to the Vision 2030 as a country and also global. So the UN Secretary General then also in one of the reports is quoted as emphasizing or directing people to actually utilize and focus on this age group, because it's a neglected age group that needs attention in terms of us looking at them with our nutrition programs or our health programs. So it's quote after quote, but what we see is a trend or evidence, although not sometimes empirical evidence, but it's showing that probably people are beginning to talk about the neglect, and as a country, we actually also need to do something. If you look at the health dynamics or the problems that affect this age group, they can be divided into three categories, where we talk about diseases of poverty. If you did know the class of problems classified as diseases of poverty. Then the second category is that of injuries, and then the third one is where we have non-communicable disease. So we have examples there where you find your HIV. You may wonder why it's classified as a disease of poverty. I think the economics, if the economics are not doing well, we actually also end up with people actually engaging in risky behavior, for example, and that's why it's classified as a disease of poverty. But this is not the, if you look at these three categories, if you look at the global map and try and see where we are as Zimbabwe, Africa, in terms of this classification of diseases, you find the green color represents areas where there is predominance of NCDs, and then the pinkish, I'm not good with colors, but the pinkish, or what color is it? Is one that represents areas where there is predominantly a lot of injuries, And if you see ourselves, if you don't know where we are on the map of the world, we are in Africa, and we are in the purple colored region. What does that mean? It means that in our context, we have multiple burden of, so there's a lot of things to work on. So it also makes it complex, even for a program planners to try and come up with intervention. So this is for this age. So let's talk about then what is driving those different mapping and the categories that we find there. This summary is trying to just tell us that when we look at the social determinants of health, I think for most students, when you do your dissertation, you collect data. I think the first part of the questionnaire is your social demographic. Probably you wonder why you put a social demographics as a part of the questionnaire when probably it's not even one of your objectives. It's because then we understand from the evidence that they are a group of social demographic factors that have a bearing or influence on one's nutrition and health. And this diagram is trying to summarize what happened with if you look at the life cycle from childhood to old age, there is a lot of influence coming from different sectors. As someone is a child, a lot of the determinants are probably at household level. But then as they grow older, isn't when a child is born, isn't they depend on the parent. As they get older, they start also going out, they start going to preschool, they start making those lunch boxes that we're talking about, isn't it? When someone finds them with chickens or carrots, maybe kids laugh at each other. So peer pressure steps in, isn't it? So there's also a lot of influence from media and a lot of other things as this gets older. And it gets them also confused. And what's also worrying is that as they get confused, our health system is not prepared to actually help them. For example, if you put the example of sexual and reproductive health, we start having teenage pregnancies and very young mothers and things. So the health system is not prepared to actually help this age group. And that's why we say we need to refocus, not ignoring our maternal and child nutrition, but also to not leave this age group behind. So the next slide is also just some funny pictures from the Lancet series, just to help us out with our discussion. As you move through the life cycle from left to, depending on whether you know which one is the left, which one. From left to right, that's the life cycle from a preconception, you get pregnant, there is a child that is born, you start getting to childhood, those stages that we introduced earlier on. And then you get to our focus on adolescence. On top, we have the needs, and below, we have the actions in terms of our interventions as a government or as a Minister of Health or the different partners that we have. So we have our problems, obviously, we have listed them into, we say they are categorized into 3 categories. Those are the ones on top. And then the health services should be geared to respond to those health problems. So in a typical theoretical framework like this one, this is the ideal situation. If you go on the ground, we also realize that there is a mismatch. What this age group needs versus what our health system is delivering. We realize that it's not actually meeting the needs of this age group. That's what this diagram is trying to summarize. So why should we worry about the mismatch? It's because of those arrows pointing down, isn't it? Those arrows pointing down are also then telling us that if we neglect, we continue to neglect this age group, we continue to have a lot of cross-generational malnutrition, cross-generational health problems, even cross-generational poverty is there. So we worry about this mismatch because of the dangers of the cycle, intergenerational cycle of malnutrition, poverty, and all that framework. So we need to have a match between them. Another version also of the conceptual framework of the confusing matrix of the health and nutrition issues for this age group. The second window of opportunity, yes, but then we, in our efforts to try and respond, we also need to come up with interventions that are fit for purpose. I think in most cases, the policymakers will try and use the top to bottom approach, which probably will not work when you look at this matrix. Because sometimes now we're talking about youth engagement, trying to make sure that we understand their needs, so that whenever we design our interventions, they are responsive to those specific needs. Not coming up with interventions that are put on paper, but they are not addressing the problem. So we need to have an understanding of this framework. A lot of things have been said by previous presenters. There's a lot of psychological, psychosocial issues, socio-economic issues. I think that's why you see Sandra is presenting as a nutrition forum, but she's also bringing in sociology or social science brain, so that you can also understand. In most cases, we normally just get the figure. The one guy presented a lot of statistics in your presentation, but then sometimes we need to get the story behind the statistics, and that's where probably also borrow from our social scientists, because they use a lot of qualitative methods, focus group discussions, and all those other ethnographic type of methods to understand the story behind the figure. So if you don't understand the matrix, sometimes you need in trying to come up with the intervention. So there is, in Zimbabwe, the landscape analysis is ongoing. The objective is to try and come up with a roadmap of where to go, but we are not flying blindly, because in terms of global evidence, there is guidance from our UN partners. This is just a report that some of us can try and look at in terms of further guidelines on implementing effective action. Remember, I said we need to match the needs to our interventions. If we don't do that, we'll be wasting everyone's time and resources. So that WHO came up with this guidance to help countries come up with their roadmap or policy frameworks to focus on this age group. There's also a lot of, these are just a few that I've chosen. This is also guidance from our UN partners on how also we can be guided in terms of prioritizing adolescent nutrition and health programming. This one also recently coming out, essential nutrition actions that needs to be done for us to adequately or holistically address the nutrition challenges that defeat different people at different life stages. So let's borrow from the Lancet series in terms of the recommendations. What needs to be done as we move forward? The reframing of adolescent health, shifting here so that we don't neglect this age group, match the needs of this age group to what we want to come up with, and then universal health coverage, not leaving anyone behind. We still preach the gospel of multi-sectoral nutrition actions or interventions, because from the conceptual framework, we also understand the causes of malnutrition are complex and intertwined. It needs more than just help to deal with it. So we need people from agriculture, social services, and things like that. And then the number 5 is something that is important in terms of recommendations, making sure that we engage youth. We don't design programs for them, but we involve them in the design of the interventions that are waiting for this age. So grow knowledge opinion to generate evidence that can be used by policymakers to actually make decisions on the certain health issues, especially now we're talking about adolescents. We have realized there's a gap in terms of evidence. It means someone can actually do their dissertation and generate few sub-national evidence that can be used to paint the picture of the nutrition and health situation as respect to this adolescent. On number 6, the last one is about capacity building, which is also important because for us to respond to any health or nutrition, we also need to be having the capacity in terms of finance, capacity also in terms of human resource. I think that's why also these guys were introducing themselves. I'm a nutrition student, I'm a full-time student. We're actually coming here to get a degree so that we can actually go there and utilize what we have learned to solve our problem. So out of the 6, I've chosen this one. I think it's important. Unicef has been doing a lot with this issue of youth engagement. Recently, where is my Miss Hackathon? They just completed the hackathon and winners, some of them are here. They want something. But yes, we need to engage the youth to make sure that we actually take on that potential that people are talking about, that this age group is a lot of potential in terms of achieving our objectives. And I think we always go back to the life cycle approach as we try and solve a lot of problems. We don't want to refocus on adolescents and end up neglecting other age groups. But we are saying, let's not leave the maternal and child nutrition or health, but also let's bring and let's not leave the adolescents behind, because we know that life cycle is the one that I was talking about. If you don't act, we create a cycle of intergenerational malnutrition and poverty. I think with this, I rest my case.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Matsungu, for that. I'm not sure if it was a lecture, it was a politician's speech, but I think he tried by all means to summarize all the issues. And I'm sure, and I'm being told, before you think of leaving, just remember we've got a networking session immediately after this, just short discussion. So please just bear with us so that we can try to finish as quick as possible. So if you have got any questions that you wrote down, that you jotted down, any discussion points that you want to share, discuss, this is the time to ask those questions. So those are the questions first, maybe to the presenters. It might not necessarily be to the presenter, but to the house. Any questions or burning issues? The presenters, maybe we can get maybe about two questions per person, then they try to respond, but we just combine this with the discussion. Let me start with
Hi, thanks. In the presentation, I think some aspects of what you said. I think there's a gap between food industry and what we as nutritionists are aiming. I'll just give you an example. Unfortunately, the gentleman who did the dissertation is not here. The dissertation that was done this past academic year was to look at the glycemic index of breads sold locally. So we had white bread, we had brown bread. I think it had virgin, not bleak whole wheat, but virgin whole bread. And the glycemic index was through the roof. Because I think all of them were above 97. You see? So now we're trying to educate people to eat healthy, but what we assume is healthy is not linked to what industry is actually doing. So there's a gap between the food manufacturing industry and our goal as nutritionists. I don't know how that gap can be closed.
interesting issues of scaling up nutrition, business network. I'm not sure, is there anyone from the industry in this one at the moment? Okay, I'm not sure if because the moment you start talking about industry, I know nutritionists just think of the likes of Axon, Xavier. Okay, good. Aline, we will have you speak as well to a certain extent. I know you represent the industry, but from a nutrition perspective, we have those into production, sales, and marketing. Yeah, maybe just give us a brief of what you think. Yes, Dr. Chopin.
Yeah, I think my point of question also ties in well with what Carol has just brought up. The correctness of the message that you're giving out as a nutritionist. For example, we tell clients or people to eat brown bread or whole wheat, but the glycemic index is just the same as white bread, right? And then also from Ruby's presentation, you talked about honey being better than sugar, but I don't know, my science tells me that calorie to calorie, honey is the same as sugar. I think that the difference is just one calorie, it's the same. And they say that fine, honey has got antioxidants and stuff like that, but for you to reap those benefits, you need to eat like drums of honey, you know. So the correctness of the message we have to validate our messages.
Interesting. One of my friends always tells me that it's not honey that's sold in the market, it's actually syrup. I don't know what syrup or mix and sugar. I don't know how much it is. Okay. Those are second question relating to what Rumi just spoke about. I'm sure Rumi is jotting down. And everyone else can just chip in and come in. Yes?
From these presentations, I find that you have got a lot of information that's supposed to be given to the adolescents. But then when it comes to deciding what to buy, or the funds that are available to buy, normally are with the parents who are the adults. If this information is not given to them, even if you give the adolescents the information, at the end of the day, the results will not be there. So I think we should also target it, giving this information to the adults so that they know what to give to their children. I'm a midwife, and most of the time we're in contact with it's mostly the pregnant women. You will find that the challenges that we have is the variety or the diversity of the foodstuffs that they eat is limited, not necessarily because they don't have enough money. Yes, of course, the financial aspect is there, but it's because they don't know. And if these people that we meet who are adults that don't know, how would we expect them to provide for their children? I think they should be part of the target group that we should give the information to them so that they address these issues.
That's true. And I'm sure those who are on pressure are just realizing what Kuti just posted. And I'm sure that's one of the things that she's talking about. She said she's talking about she used to prepare rupees for her child, for her child to take to school. But then when they then go to school, kumbano da rupees. But you come from lunch, but mama the child actually says it's better to go home, it's better to go hungry than to carry a lunchbox in a pizza. So it's not necessarily an issue of knowledge. They might have the knowledge, but what's guiding the food choices? Not necessarily on issues to do with affordability and things like that.
What's rupees?
Rupees, that's like, no, zero rupees. Huh? Yes.
It's cowpeas or
zero ground, kind of.
Yeah.
Then you ground. It's more like ground. Any other questions? I know Sandra talked about rights, right? But then you then think about, when we talk about these rights, in what context are we talking about it? Everyone is making noise about the Nutrition Hackathon, which is an entry for adolescent programming, but this is stimulated by funding from United Nations, which really takes care of issues to do with the vulnerable. What about those children who are within the rural areas now? When we want to use technology, and we're talking about that forgotten age group, but what about the forgotten rural age group as well. What are we talking about that? I know Matthew is from France, and they talk about the taxpayers' money being utilized for maximum impact. I'm not sure if I'm opening another can of worms. Yes,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been listening very carefully, and most of the presenters were actually alluding to the fact that we have limited data on adolescents. But for me, coming from program side, I think just from these presentations, I'm seeing a lot of data that we have. What I'm missing from program side, not necessarily from just the academic side, is how can we make whatever is available, the available data, inform the programs that we are doing at all levels, at policy level, at intervention level, at community level, and at individual like the adolescent. I liked the theme or the topic which was presented on a holistic approach. When we talk of holistic approach, what are we really saying in terms of coming up with a comprehensive adolescent nutrition program for Zimbabwe? Taking all what is there and what is not there. I'm also maybe from the landscape analysis that Dr. Matsuo is doing, the institute is doing. I think they should be able to come up with key recommendations for program, because for us, yes, we know even now we are talking about let's encourage our families, but it's only us. As a program, how can we reach to all the necessary adolescents and all the necessary platforms, and not only the adolescents, but also even their families, their communities? How can we make them aware of these issues, and how can we direct the adolescent nutrition program in Zimbabwe? I think it's one of the key questions that we should be able to answer ourselves and to really think aloud. I saw on Dr. Masungo's, was it the last or second last, there were key recommendations. It's fine, but for me, I think they were kind of broad recommendations that also usually come with the global recommendations. I saw 3 sets of books that he highlighted. I read the first one, which was the WHO guidelines on implementation. Within that book, they have key recommendations, but these are global. How can we now adapt that to our own local situation and setting as Zimbabwe? I think if we will be able to come up with those things, we have a program for the adolescent that will address our needs.
Interesting. I think the idea of cohesion, taking that global perspective and try to adapt it in a context or in a country context. And I'm sure it's the way we should be going. Any other questions? Don't turn up to this. Any other perspectives, questions? I know Sandra talked a lot about issues. Jamonga talked about issues to do with data, adolescent status. Yes, Jonah.
Yeah, I was just trying to probably, like, my background is nutrition, but then I shifted to communication and media. Why? Because I realized probably there are not so many nutritionists doing what I'm doing. But I think that's a challenge that the guys that I'm working with, we're trying to come up with, to say, okay, how best can we be able to give people information that is probably realistic and something that probably, in terms of solutions, that really doesn't need much to be able to get results. You'd find that there's sort of like a break between media and nutrition. Even if you look at probably the academic program, I'm not sure what the program is doing right now, but you'd find that if, for example, nutritionists would be empowered on how to use social media and media to be able to create messages, this kind of messages that target adolescents, I think that would be effective. So in other words, you have to make sure that the information that you give it's attractive to that age group. If you need to incorporate actors, singers, right now what we are doing is we've got a program called Diet and Nutrition TV show. It's self-funded. We basically meet up as nutritionists and dietitians, and then we take videos where we discuss on some of these topical issues. And I think probably that's a buy-in that you as organizations can be able to come in and say, okay, this is what we can do. So recently what we did was, I remember I was doing something with Ruby. I said, okay, Ruby, you know, our program has basically been looking at solutions which are probably beyond the reach of many. Why don't we just focus on a TV program that focuses on promoting the local diets? Right? Local diets, cook shows, the cook show. Someone talking about how to prepare matemba and something else, how to make mahel. Those very simple things.
I mean, of course,
the biggest challenge that we have, like what I've always said, is you'd find that most of the information is probably in written form. If you look at most NGOs, they've got recipe books and all that. Once the program is done, it's put in the dustbin. It's not used. But if that information could translate into something like a TV show, a cook show, that focuses on local diets, that has that particular age group participating in that, then you'd find that probably you can get something.
Issues of application of media in nutrition. And I think within the curriculum we used to learn about nutrition education and communication. I remember it used to be Dr. Chobea's class. I'm not sure if she's teaching, still teaching that at the moment. Is she?
I am.
Oh, it's still your course. So next time please bring Tola to that class. Okay, Matthew, you had another hand? No. Okay, any? So remember just taking a lead from Tola's message that, remember our nutrition message is that it's sexy. Becky always said that the nutrition message is supposed to be like a mini skirt. Long enough to cover the essentials, but short enough to keep the appetite. Yes.
Yes to me?
Yes.
Me?
Yeah.
Anna. All right. So I wanted to ask about the balances between children's rights and good food. You know, I personally tried it at home with my kids, and I said today we'll start with the shopping basket. And I gave my children 100 bond, and we went into the supermarket to just do some shopping. And it was really quite shocking. You would think a 5-year-old would, you know, so I said, dinner is on you tonight. And the shopping basket was full of all those things that I never knew they know about them, like chips, chocolates, fudges, sweets, and that was dinner. My only condition was that this should be eaten in one night. Whatever left over, we're giving away or we're throwing away. But honestly speaking, I think when we do these rights, as parents, we need to create a balance between what is good for the children and what is their right. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another hand behind you. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the issue of rights because you want to stimulate people to talk about rights, but in the audience, people are not talking about rights. It's the reality. I think it was part of about when you start mentioning rights, let's get into politics. That's the kind of political economy context that you are in. It's in the Constitution, right? Our Constitution that we endorse, that it is a person's right to access to food and so on. I will take government to a constitutional court, violating children's rights to food. Those are issues, that are very complex in the kind of context that we are living in. But research is important that we highlight these issues. Yes, programmers should also remain in terms of thinking about, but it would be very important that also people from government departments are also, amongst it, so that they can be able to.
Do we have anyone from
Because at
government?
the end of the day, they're trying to be us.
Do we have anyone from government? Yes. No government in the house? Okay, I'm going to cut Sandra so more questions because I'm going to give it time. At the back, there was another hand. No? Okay, so I'm going to give Rumi a little bit of time to try and respond to some of the issues that were raised.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, in relation to the connection between food industry and nutritionists, one thing we need to realize is that food industry is actually politics, and it's a very big money-making scheme. So for us as nutritionists to actually say we want to find ways of changing how the food industry does, it will take a lot of time. So like what Tola brought out, we need to use social media. That is what I personally am doing, because I believe that there's a lot going on in relation to weight loss. People are using fad diets, they are getting sick, and some are dying. But us as nutritionists, we're quiet. We support some of these diets, saying that it's healthy, but people are doing it the wrong way. So I think it's really important that we come out and we tell people the truth, even on social media. Whether you're on a social media group, they're talking about weight loss, and they're talking about a specific diet, you need to highlight to them about the importance of healthy eating. Because healthy eating and using a fad diet, you'll actually lose the same amount of weight, but you'll not gain the weight back twice as compared to someone who's using a fad diet. So you really need to make sure that as nutritionists, we tell people the truth and we use the patterns that we have. Even at schools, last week, but one I was in Bulawayo for a pharmacist association, and there's a lady there who's saying she's pushing for the tuck shops to stop selling sugar at the tuck shop. She's speaking to girls, the adolescents, the teenage girls, about the bad things about sugar. She's taking an initiative. She's not waiting for someone else to come and say, let's do this, because she knows that it's going to affect her children. So for those of us with children, go to the schools, come up with PTA groups, talk to them, and tell them about the dangers of some of these things, and make an initiative from the ground growing up. And then there was a comment about honey and sugar. If you were to look at the processing of sugar, you realize a lot of chemicals that are actually put into the sugar. It's not just the sugar cane, as compared to the organic honey, which comes from the bee, the bee itself. And from the perspective that I was coming from, it's more of the weight loss. When it comes to weight loss, anything your body cannot digest, it stores as fat. So if you remember that, you are taking in the sugar, it's a chemical, the chemical is added to it, your body can't digest it, it's going to become fat. So someone else is maybe taking honey, they are going to not gain as much weight as compared to someone who's taking sugar, which your body can't digest. Because truth be told, everything has got sugar, we all know that. Whether it's the milk or the fruit, it all got sugar. But what we want is for you to have the healthy alternative of a sweetener.
The last component?
And then I think the last component was just that about the reaching out to adults and not just the adolescents. And I think that's a very good point, which for us as nutritionists, we can make a difference. We've got church groups. We need to say, I would like to speak about nutrition and healthy eating for ladies. You've got men's meetings, you've got men's groups that you are at. Use those platforms to actually conscientize people about the truth, about what real food is and how they can be able to reduce some of these diseases.
Interesting. And I'm sure there was a question that I was talking about. What about, we say people should eat healthy foods like bread, but then the industry has got something else, right? And I remember at some point, Dr. Chipurura used to did that long research on yogurt, but I never got to see that in the market. So we do our research and we keep it in the cupboard here in the institute. It doesn't get on the market, but we complain that the industry is selling unhealthy foods. So is that the industry or us who has the problem? Maybe Tavia, on industry perspective. No, you don't want to talk about that? No, it's not about formula. Yeah. Don't worry. Okay then. Okay. Yes.
I think the issue is, what you must understand is that industry is out to make money. I know my husband had a conversation with one of the companies which makes yogurt and asked, but what happened to your figure-8 yogurt? And he said, to tell the truth, people didn't buy as much as we hoped to buy. So we had to shelve the product. So if people are not going to buy it, they're not going to make it, because they're out to make money.
So it's an issue that is there, but I think the key issue here is that yes, the industry are making money, but labeling has to be clear. That this food has got this and this and that. That is the best way we can actually work with industry. Just the food labels. So people make informed choice about the food that they're eating. Yeah. If somebody wants to eat white bread, which has got 99, let it be their choice. Of which now it will be our job to influence their choice by advocating. No, guys, no, you can't be choosing white bread. If you're going to choose that bread, choose the other one with a little less. So that's an input. That is the key issue. That's the way we can actually work with industry. To stop them making money, that I think will be really unfair on our part. Now we should do our job. But at least if the food labels are there, it's easier for us also to recommend appropriate products to the communities.
Interesting, and I'm sure we need to bring choices to the industry that market the healthy foods so that the industry can be able to make money through healthy foods, right? Okay. Yes. Discussion point? Question?
Yes. I wanted to contribute to the issue of industry. But okay, if you look, for example, taking issue about smoking, when those people advertise their product, they actually saying that smoking is great for health. But then if you look at the statistics right now, so many people are still smoking. In the same way, in the food industry part, you can actually see that these packages, they are actually written. You know what? That's what people, they write on their packaging materials, stating whatever it is that is in their food, right? If you look at the Mazuri packaging, they actually stated that it's aspartame, which you already know that aspartame is got some of the bad effects for someone's health, right? But then it is still an individual's choice to go and still choose it. So if you look at it on a perspective of what people usually do, few people actually look at those labels. Few people actually know the effects of some of the things you're putting in our food. So the industrial part, they are saying that we're actually taking what we're putting. So it's not a problem that the people are taking it and they're still suffering. They say that it's not a problem that people are still eating and they're still not being healthy. Why? Because they're telling us but they're still going there. So I think maybe we should actually go to the society and actually talk to people. Make sure that we tell them that it is paramount that you are remunerating whatever it is that you are taking when we are going with the show.
Interesting issues of demand creation. To create demand of those healthy foods, not necessarily to try and, but I mean, we need a balance, right? To target the industry, then also the communities as well. Okay? I mean, last 3 minutes before Tony, if you want to respond. I know, Tawanga, there was an issue of data. You need to start thinking about it. You were saying that there's no data, but there was a lot of data that you talked about. Yes.
Thank you. I think also just looking also at a media perspective as well as culture, you'll notice that there are certain products that we market in a way that it becomes a part of us. So for example, Coca-Cola. You know, Christmas time, the number one drink that you want is Coca-Cola. It's because they've made it look like that. That every time when it's Christmas, you gotta have a Coke. Right? We've got to find a way of making some of these adverts appeal to people, and not just locally but also internationally. Because you'll find that even when you had a shortage of Mazoe Orange Crush here, a product that we make, you would find it in Botswana, in South Africa, and somewhere else. So I think we also need to find a way of getting our products out there internationally, because that's where the money is as well. I know we're talking about money and this and that, and it's a very, probably a complex matrix of saying we want something to be popular out there first before it's popular locally. But you'll find in some way that it's something that works, because if you think of Nigerians, everybody knows jollof rice. Outside Nigeria, they'll always be looking for it. And it's something that has given them that proudness or that cultural identity that if I'm Nigerian, people know that I like jollof rice, or this is what is Nigerian. So I think we need to find a way of making our products that are local, that are healthy. You know, as Zimbabweans, we need to make them appeal as much to other people, and so that they can identify us with that. And then we too also stand up for our products and be like, yes, I also do like Sadza, I also do this. And it just sort of like promotes that.
Sure, I agree with you. And I remember, I I saw Dr. Chopera whispering to Yumi. Earlier on, she said, what's the pizza? But now she was saying, what's jollof rice? Yeah, and I think that's, to a certain extent, we do agree with what we're discussing this evening. And I'd like to hear perspectives of food scientists. You're the ones who do product development. You go to town about it, right? But why is it you're not developing food for us, or healthy food, isn't it? Company aspiring food scientist, never food scientist. Let's see, what does a food scientist think? Food scientist. Scientist. Yes, or even a biochemist is fine. Yes.
Okay, from my perspective, I think, like, this is that right. We have students developing certain products. But their ideas, they die soon after they leave this place. That's what happens usually. Because after they come up with the idea, I don't think there's mentoring into the industry out there, and financing also into the industry out there. So usually when one leaves this place, it goes back to his normal state at home, where we buy a bread at $10 board, and even we do not try to get a bread at home. So that capacity stops the production of the foods.
Interesting. Are you a student on?
I am a student.
Okay. I mean, it's very bold. It's very bold of you to say that when Dr. Chopera and Dr. Chipuru are listening. Yes, okay. Any other perspectives? Okay. I mean, in closing, the adolescent guys, Dr. Matungo or Taonga, there was a lot of issues that came out, issues to do with the broader recommendations in terms of adolescent nutrition. There was also issues to do with making it applicable, making those recommendations applicable to our setting, issues of urban, and I know Sandra talked about it, issues of urban versus rural, and issues of, you are saying there's no data, but there's a lot of data actually from a lot of programs and things like that. So where are we missing the point? The academia is here, the programs people are here. What's really happening? Okay, before he comes in, yes?
Okay. Maybe on the data part, I know a little maybe because I'm in the research field, but we do have data, we do have programs, but if you search, using the search engines that we use, those reports don't come out. I think most of the data is in report form.
And it's not published?
It's not published, yeah. So it's not searchable.
Yeah, and your students come to the industry, but then they don't have those reports?
Well, they do have reports, but the thing is sometimes we don't want them to reference.
You don't want them to reference local? Okay, interesting. Yeah, because we then realize that there is that huge gap between industry and academia, right? Yeah. But you find out that there's a lot of interaction. I know Taonga used to be in our office at some point in time, then she's back to being Dr. Matungo's daughter. But then we then say there's that huge gap. What are we doing with our students, right? When they come to the industry, what are we exposing them to? And even when they come back, issues of implementation research. Okay. Was there a hand up? Okay. Yes?
On the available data, I think it's not only the statistics that we need. The statistics are supposed to inform us to act in a certain field. To say this is a field that is a problem, but let's go and identify what causes that problem. Because in as much as you might have data on so many percentage of children underweight, so many percentage of adolescent children are not eating well, but what's causing that? If we get the answer to that, then we can have the solution to our problem. And there are no blanket solutions. As long as there are dynamics in our population that differ, there is no one size fits all solutions. So we have to have solutions that are tailor-made for the wealthy, tailor-made for the rich, tailor-made for the urban, tailor-made for the tech-savvy. So all those different demographics in our population they have to have a different set of solutions for them. So it's not just the statistics, but it's what's possible. When we have the answer to that, then we can have a solution.
Interesting issues of also qualitative data coming in. Sandra, do you wish to say something?
Oh yeah, just maybe because it was behind the statistics. I think those are some of the issues that I try to highlight in terms of bringing the narrative in the voice. When you really understand the political issues. And also, historical patterns. If you go to work with Unicef, there are issues that are actually dating back to operation, what was it called, membership. People never recovered from operation membership. So that's why, they are also in that kind of position that they are in.
Nice perspective. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately our time is has gone very long. So let's take this time to thank the speakers. Once again, Tawonga, Dr. Sandra, Dr. Matsumo, and Rumbi. Let's give them a round of applause. An issue of housekeeping. Once let's carry on this discussion. Outside there is food. But please, At this moment in time, let me hand over to the chairperson of the NFNS department, Dr. Kurura, to just give us those closing remarks. And colleagues, remember to network. And for those who are going to town, let's try by all means to figure out how we can assist each other and fill up all those cars, because transport becomes a problem or a challenge this time. So if you have a car, please offer someone a lift.
Thank you very much, everyone. I think you've been welcome to our department. I think this is a coincidence. Do you have someone totally like a in here? No? Just like you come and read the message here. He sent this message 3 after 7. From, I think, can you read the message? Yes. Gentlemen, yes.
Gentlemen, please accept my apologies for a direct approach. I found your details on the UZ website, and I quite liked your expertise in the area of food, as I have an interest. I'm a Zimbabwean, got my first degree in accounting from the UZ, and I'm now based in the UK. My particular interest is developing a product that will use the local Zimbabwean indigenous fruit trees as a substitute for sugar. I'm keen to seek your expertise on some questions I have and see where that goes. If that's okay, please let me know by way of reply to this email. Thank you.
So I think you've seen the importance of using our local resources. So, Robin, I now pay attention to feelings. So, my presentation will be very, very short. Yeah? So, we have reached the end of the Nutrition Academic Evening Seminar, and it is first of its kind in the department. I think we are agree. First of its kind. First of its kind in the faculty, and probably first of its kind in the whole university. So thank you very much, the organizers, for such a wonderful event. So my job is very simple, and is to give some closing remarks. And at the same time, it's a set job because of closing the door to the lively and stimulating presentation that we had this night. This seminar has been outstanding. We have been exposed to information, statistics, and interpretations on school-age nutrition and adolescent nutrition and health. So the question now is, what are the key takeaways? So today, I'll go home and tell my wife that Ruby said there's a problem. The problem is malnutrition in adolescents. Also, Tawonga said there is a problem. The problem is that of worrying statistics. There's obesity, overweight, standing, hidden hunger, etc. And also Rumbi said there is a problem, not paying attention to feelings. And then also Sandra said there is a problem. So what is the problem? No children's rights to food and nutrition. And lastly, Tony said there is a problem. So what is the problem? Adolescents are neglected. So from the presentations, I believe we now appreciate that adolescent nutrition is a neglected area in the field of nutrition. The seminar is ended, but our work on school-age children and adolescent nutrition and health is only just beginning. Therefore, as nutritionists, dietitians, students, and medical practitioners must all commit to the work ahead of us. So, lastly, I would like to thank Unicef for the support to host this first nutrition academic evening. I would also like to thank organizers of the seminar, the Department of Food, Nutrition and Family Science, as well as the Zimbabwe Nutrition Association. Special thanks to the presenters, Ms. Ganda. Please a round of applause for Ms. Berezwa. Mrs. Connery, Dr. Sandra, Dr. Tonde. To everyone, thank you for bringing your expertise and experience. So thank you for bringing your expertise and experience and engaging in such fruitful, constructive, and open exchanges. I thank you all.
So thank you, Dr. Chikurura. Just a quick announcement from the youth advocate on some materials that are available.
So as the Youth Nutrition Program, we started last year. So 13 of us from 30 different countries. So after we connected our business to all of last year's of pioneering, we came up with this toolkits. There's one nutrition brief, and then there's one adolescent nutrition advocacy guide. So these are like user manuals which you can use, and I know that nutrition students in here. So you can use them in personal level. So you can, I think starting from tomorrow you can talk to Dr. Matsungo, you can get the link on where to download these manuals. And once you have started using these manuals, then you, there's the issue about human rights and stuff. So as leaders for nutrition, what we do is policy, we do advocacy and policy change. So we're going around talking to governments about sponsoring and issues that revolve around nutrition. So you can also start doing that from a grassroots level. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Chikurura talked about problems, right? But there's only one solution. There's food outside. And let's just take this time to thank our nutritionist, who is also a media and communications expert, Mr. Chola, for coming to us.